Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about our new board game, which is Reduce to Deduce, a mystery game featuring Detective Colonel Zorro. Now, if you've been reading the Detective Colonel Zorro books, you know that each book sees him going to some historical destination or monument within India, and in the process of solving the mystery, he brings out the actual facts of that location and the heroines and hero who have fought to make our country the great place that it is. You can now be Detective Zorro, fact check the rumors that villains are spreading about our great history and heritage, and defeat them and stop them from maligning our fair name. All in the Reduce to Deduce Detective Zorro board game. So let's quickly see what's in the box and how the game is played. Right, so obviously, like any game, we've got the rule book in this game. Interestingly, besides telling you how the game is to be played, you will find that right at the end of the book, you have these scenarios. You've got scenario 1, scenario 2 and scenario 3. What this means is that this is a 3-in-1 game, so on the same board, using the same pieces, you can actually play 3 different games. Each scenario refers to a different time in history, it refers to a different battle or a different incident, and the villain is spreading rumors pertaining to that incident which you need to bust, you need to fact check them, and need to make sure that he doesn't get to his objective and you stop him from maligning the name of the nation. While you can read the rule book, I'll walk you through a quick tutorial which tells you how the game is to be played. Obviously, you can also anytime refer to this book to check back on what to be done if you get stuck anywhere. Besides the book, we've got this board. The first game which I am showing you about is on Ranthambore Fort, so we've got the Ranthambore Fort on it. We've got other games covering different destinations like Dwarka, the Ajanta Ellora caves, and so on and so forth. So you open the board and we set it down here. Besides this board, we've got these 3 scenario cards, which I'm just going to grab from the table here. Here we go. So we got scenario 3, like I said, scenario 2 and scenario 1. You can choose to play any one of the scenario in any order that you want. You don't need to play scenario 1, 2 and 3 sequentially, and have loads of fun learning about an actual battle or history or incident from India's history and how people actually stood up against great travels and prevented defeat and prevented our nation being overrun by invaders and villains. Also, with the game, you get 6 player avatars. Colonel Zorro, of course, who is the detective and is the captain of the team. Simsim, his friends Dom, Woody, Tipu, Malika, and you've got a 7th avatar, which is the villain, that is Dom. So let's quickly set up the board. Let's see what the objective is and how do you play this game. This is the board which displays the Ranthambore Fort, or rather the interiors of the Ranthambore Fort. The objective is that you play as a team of 6 players. Unlike most board games, you don't compete with each other, but you are playing as a team and ensuring that you start from this military camp at the beginning of the board and get to Badal Mahal right at the end, and do so before Batuk the villain gets there. So to start with, we pick up Batuk, which is this avatar, and we can place him on this countdown clock. Now the countdown clock has got 3 different places where you can put Batuk. If you're playing the easy level, you start him on the 9-hour mark. If it's medium, you start him on the 6-hour mark, and if it's hard, you start him on the 3-hour mark. So let's say, for instance, for this demo, I start him on the 6-hour mark, which is the medium version of the game. To get to Badal Mahal, you have to go through Torandwar and Navlakha Dwar. From there, you get to Hamir's Court and Mahadev Chhatri, and then you join forces to get to Badal Mahal. Like I said at the beginning, all 6 avatars or all 6 players play as one team. Now, even if you're playing alone, you can just play the turns of all the 6 players and have loads of fun and learning while you're playing the game. Or you can have 6 people, each one being a different avatar. The big question is, how do you decide who's going to go from Navlakha Pole or who's going to go from Torandwar? Let me move this aside and I'll quickly show you how that is done. In the board or in the box, you also get these little skill tokens. You can see that there is the name of the game, which is Ranthambore Fort, on one side, and you've got these letters on the other side. So let's put these face down with the letters not being visible. There are 6 tokens. I place all 6 of them down here and I shuffle them up. So I don't know which skill is where. Without seeing which token is where, randomly place 3 tokens over here and 3 tokens over here. Once you've done the placement, these 3 tokens will define which 3 players become team 1 that's going to go to Navlakha pole, and which 3 players become a part of team 2 which goes to the Torandwar. Remember, you are playing together as a team, you are not competing against each other, you are only competing against Batuk. The objective, I repeat, is for you to get from the military camp to Badal Mahal, crossing these gates before Batuk reaches the 0 hour mark on the countdown clock. Now let's turn these skill tokens around. So as you can see, for the Navlakha pole, we've got D, C and W. But what is D, C and W? For you to know what is what, you've got these player cards. So for instance, if I look at Woody's card, it says that his D or deduction skill is 5. His muscle skill or strength skill is 3. His combat skill is 2. His guile is 6. His wits are 4 and his speed is 1. For you to be able to enter a gate, your total skill score as a team should be 30 or above. So the best way to do that is, if you've got 3 skills, which is deduction, combat and wit, you choose the player who's got a 6 of at least one of these skills. Now in this case, if I look at D, D is for deduction. For deduction, naturally Detective Colonel Zorro has a skill score of 6 because he is the detective and the brain of the operations. So Detective Zorro becomes one of the players. So we place him, let's say, on this side of the board and he moves here. The other skill that we have is wit. Like we saw for wit, okay, let me find that skill score. There you are. Lieutenant Malika has got a skill score of 6. So I place Lieutenant Malika along with Colonel Zorro. And we have C for combat, or that is a fighting skill, which is Major Tipu. So these 3 become one team and these 3 become one team. Like I said, even though there are 2 teams, they're actually playing together, they're playing in tandem, and the objective is to get here, from there to this gate, and from there eventually to the Badal Mahal before Batuk gets there. Now how do you play? You've got this dice, which is unique in the sense that it doesn't have any numbers on it, it's got the same skills printed on these. So let's say if Detective Zorro is playing first, I roll the dice as Zorro and I get an M for muscle. Now for me to know how many steps Zorro moves, I pick up Detective Zorro's card and I see that for muscle, his score is 2. So Detective Zorro will move 2 spots ahead on any one of these 3 lines. Let's say Zorro decides to move on this line, he comes to his spot marked T, and you'll find that the board is peppered with different spots marked as T. A T is a trapdoor which Batuk has set for you. Once you get to a T, depending on which scenario you're playing, you pick up a scenario card. So let's say if you're playing scenario 1, I move aside the top card and I pick up the first card that I find there without seeing what's underneath it. And I read the scenario. So here it says, Iltutmish attacked Ranthambore and killed killed Veer Narayan in battle. Now you as a team have to decide whether this is a fact or whether this is a rumor that Batuk is spreading. Once you've decided, you declare that this is a fact or this is a rumor. But the big question is, how do you know if it's a fact or a rumor? That's where our rule book comes in handy. So you move to that particular scenario and you read the facts which have been written about scenario 1. Once you've read these facts, you would get an idea of whether Batuk is speaking the truth or whether he's spreading wild rumors to stop you from getting to your objective. Also, each of these scenarios has got a QR code over here. You can scan this to watch a video which we published on YouTube that will give you more information and more facts about the battle. Remember, the more information you have, the more you empower yourselves with knowledge on what actually happened, the better are your chances of calling Batuk's bluff, the better are your chances of fact-checking the rumors he's spreading and stopping him from getting to his objective. Now, I know in this particular case, what Batuk said is false because Iltutmish did not manage to defeat Veer Narayan in open battle. In fact, he lost to him in open battle. So I turn the card around and it tells me that yes, what I'm saying is right, it is false. And it says Iltutmish could never defeat the Chahamanas or the Chamana dynasty in open battle. Now that I've called Batuk's lie, I have an option of challenging him to a duel. Or I can choose not to challenge him to a duel. If I choose not to challenge him to a duel, I remain here and the next player plays their turn. But if I challenge him to a duel, I mark the place where I was, and both Batuk and my player Avatar move here. From here on, we take turns in rolling the dice. Whatever number comes, the corresponding skill score is how much we move ahead. Like we've got these skill cards for the individual players, we've also got a skill card for Batuk. So you can place Batuk's skill card over here so that you know how many moves he moves or how many places he moves on the board depending on what number is rolled. If the player manages to get to the 15-kilometer mark before Batuk does, then Batuk moves back one spot or two spots depending on the version of the game that you're playing on the countdown clock, whereas you remain where you are. So each time you defeat Batuk in combat, you're pushing him behind the clock. And as you keep pushing him behind the clock, your chances of getting here before he reaches the zero spot improve or increase drastically. So that's how the game is played. Each player takes a turn, and depending on what skill they roll and depending on their skill score, they move ahead. The simplest way to play, if you're sitting around the board, is wherever you're seated, just place your skill card before you, so you don't need to keep checking back on what number you're supposed to roll. You can just easily glance at it and you know the number that you are supposed, the number of paces you're supposed to move depending on what skill you have rolled. Now, let's assume while you're playing, one player gets to Navlakha pole first, but the other players are languishing. The minute you get to Navlakha pole, this player stops rolling the dice. Everyone waits for all 6 players to get to their respective gates before they can move ahead to the next gate. This is very important for you to note that once you get to a gate, you wait there for the rest of your team to get back. Like the Indian Army, we don't leave anyone behind. We make sure that all our comrades are together before we move to the next level. And how does Batuk move ahead? Each time all 6 players have rolled the dice once, and whether they've challenged Batuk to a combat or not. But once you've played one turn, Batuk moves ahead 1 step or by 1 hour on the countdown clock. Once you move to the next level, to decide on, I beg your pardon, this is the first level, this is where you will move. Once you move to the next level or the first level, to choose on which player moves to which of the other 2 gates, which is Hamira Court or Navlakha Pole, we pick up these skill tokens and we repeat the process. So I put them all face down and I shuffle them and I randomly place 3 tokens here and 3 tokens here. Once I put them face up, I find that combat, speed and muscle are the 3 skills that need to total, or rather the 3 key skills which need to total up to 30 for your players to form a team. Once you've done this, it may emerge, for instance in this case, what will emerge is that Zoro, Malika and Wodi will become a team rather than Lieutenant rather than Tipu. You don't change your positions, you remain exactly where you are. But for you to move ahead, Malika, who's now supposed to move here and not here, will just get these out of the way, will proceed along this path and get here, whereas the other players will proceed along this path to get here. So you don't change your positions, you just change the path that you are moving along. Once all 6 players have got onto this path, there's no more splitting up. Now all 6, the 3 players who are here move from here, and the 3 players who are here move from here, and they get to this particular spot. Now at the beginning of the game, I told you that whoever decides to play as Detective Colonel Zoro is the captain of the team. And the captain has got 2 powers which she or he can use at any point in time. One is a veto power and the other is a double duel card. Now what is this veto power? Let's say for instance you are Tipu and you've landed on a trapdoor over here. And Batuk is already on the 3-hour mark, which means he just needs 3 more steps to get to the 0 mark. As a team, all 6 have to decide whether Batuk will challenge whether Tipu will challenge Batuk to a duel or not. If there is a disagreement within the team, or you cannot get to a vote because there are 6 players and the vote is equally divided, then the captain can use a veto card and say that I veto your decision and I believe he should take up the combat or he should not take up the combat. This veto card can be used either once or twice in a game depending on what level you are playing, and that's specified in the rule book. And once it is used, it's discarded on the side and not to be used again. The double duel card is where, and it's specified on the card also, is where if you have challenged Batuk to a duel, you can double the stakes. Which means if you manage to defeat Batuk, he will not move back 1 space or 2 spaces, but he'll move back 2 spaces or 4 spaces on the countdown clock depending on the level that you're playing. The risk is if Batuk manages to beat you, then you also move back double the spaces on the countdown clock. Now this card also, depending on what level you're playing, whether it's easy, medium or hard, can be used either once or twice in the entire game. So that's how this game is played. Loads of fun, loads of learning and loads of knowledge about our great history and heritage. So I hope you enjoyed playing this game as much as we did designing it and putting it together for you. Like I said, while we've got Ranthambore Fort in this version of the game, besides this we've covered Dwarka, we've covered Ajanta Ellora Caves, we've covered the Martan Sun Temple, we've covered Thiruvananthapuram. There are different terrains, different eras from our history and different heroines and heroes that we've covered whose glorious stories you can relive in these battles as you thwart the villains, fact check the lies that they're spreading and get to the truth of our actual history. So I hope you enjoyed the game. Do remember to put a review wherever you picked up the game from and let your friends also know that this is a great way to not just have loads of fun with your friends and family, but learn something about our history and heritage.